All right, everyone, welcome to our fourth panel. I think my email said third panel, but it's our fourth one. So welcome tonight. I want to turn it over to Tyler, who put this together, and he'll kick us off. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So, hi everybody, and welcome. Today we have several great alumni that we'll introduce in a minute to answer all your questions and make sure you're prepared for the rest of your life, I guess. We'll quickly do a couple announcements for upcoming events before we get started, just to make sure some of these have deadlines that are pretty close. So we'll just cover them really quickly so that everybody's aware, just in case you happen to miss them. So the first event is SC mentoring. So there's two different mentoring programs. One is the mentor protege matching, which, as you can see, matches students and early career professionals. So basically you'll have, if you're assuming you're the student, you will be matched with somebody who has been where you are now, hopefully not too long ago, and you can get some good advice, some good tips. And so to sign up for that, you should go to the bit.ly link here. It's SC20 Protege. And then also there's speed mentoring this year, where you can match with a couple different mentors from different backgrounds and get more than one perspective, I think, is the idea. And that also has a bit.ly link here with SC20 Speed Mentor. And so if you want to sign up, I think for either of these programs, you should do so by November 2nd, which is somehow only a couple days away. So if you want to be involved, make sure you do that. We can, I guess these links have been shared before. But,
yeah,
go ahead, Kristen.
So the speed mentoring event actually has a deadline of November 9th to sign up. It's only the matching program where you get a personalized match. That's got a deadline of November 2nd. And we'll send out an email with more information about the networking activities too, just as a heads up.
Yeah, cool. So there's that. And also, if you're missing any of the links at the end, you can just, we'll post them on Slack, and also you can find me or Christine or anybody else on Slack and get the information you need. And then the second is the resume workshop, which is a yearly event at SC, although I think it is, right? This isn't the first time we've done this.
It is not the first
Casting
time.
into the void.
Yep, nope. I know we've done it the last handful of years, but I don't know how far back it goes.
Anyway, basically, if you would like some feedback on your resume, any kind of feedback, I think I've done this before and gotten anything from formatting to content, all that kind of critique. And the good thing is that the people reviewing them are also people that have employed people or at least applied to jobs before, so you will get first-rate feedback. And so if you want to take part in that, you should submit your resume to the job fair, which you do through Linklings, I think, still. But you should also email it to Sally, who is the students at SC programming chair, and let them know that you would like your resume reviewed. And that you should do by October 29th, which is like tomorrow, I think. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity. If you've never had your resume reviewed by somebody before, it's definitely something you should consider, because I didn't think I needed my resume reviewed the first time until I did it the first time, and then I realized I really needed it. So it's a good opportunity. I encourage anybody to sign up for that. Christine, do you have anything that you'd want to add to that?
Nope, nothing to add except Kristen was nice and told y'all that the deadline was actually the 9th. I would just say sign up by the 2nd. Just sign up whenever you have a chance. The forms for signing up for these, it's really short. There's no free response. It'll only take you a little bit of time. So get a jump on it if you can.
Okay, great. So now we'll move on to the main event. Unless anybody, I guess, has any outstanding immediate questions about upcoming events.
So Tyler, I might just add one thing that I told the folks who joined early. So tomorrow you will be getting an email if you're a regular student volunteer from me, letting you know that we are going to be opening up the shifts selections tomorrow. And your tip for joining this panel tonight is, once you see my email, go into Linklings and take a look at what's available. Because by being an early bird, you'll get your worm, meaning you'll get to pick the shifts that you're most interested in working, that fits the best for your schedule. The later you wait, the less likely that will be the case. So, so there's definitely a bonus to actually reading my email tomorrow and logging into Linklings and signing up for shifts. If you get the email and you're still not sure what to do, I'm going to have step-by-step instructions in it, but just feel free to Slack or email me and I'll help you get it figured out. But that is coming to a mailbox near you tomorrow.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once? Okay. So moving on, we'll get started with the panel. So today we have 4 excellent panelists with us, and I will let them introduce themselves, I think, and we'll just go in order. So first we have Christine Harvey. Christine, if you'd like to say anything.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for inviting me to be on this. So my name's Kristen Harvey. I think quite a few of you have seen me in these webinars and in various other things. Hopefully a lot of you have been getting emails from me about different things coming up with a conference. So I was a student volunteer in 2011 and 2012. So it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it absolutely was a very long time ago. I was a sign-up student volunteer in 2012. I did a little bit of work with the broader engagement program after that, and then I've been on the committee, I think, since 2014, attending SC. So I've been around SC for really over a decade now, and it's been a really good experience. It definitely, helped me find and get my job that I have now at MITRE. So I'm a lead high-performance analytic computing engineer at MITRE. MITRE is a collection of federally funded research and development centers. So we do nonprofit research for the US government. I manage our internal high performance computing systems. So we have a couple really, really small clusters, but I do a lot of work with user training. I get to do a lot of the purchasing, trying to figure out, help people figure out how to, run their code on GPUs and things like that. I get to kind of dabble in a lot of different things across the high performance computing domain. So I think that's, and I'm also the Students at SC chair this year, and I'm on the SC 2020. I'm on the SC steering committee. My term just started. I think I get 4 years there. So I get to go to a lot of meetings about the conference, but I really enjoy it.
Great. All right. So our second panelist is Kristen Brown. Kristen, I think I saw you in the call, yes?
Yeah. So I'm here. Yeah, so I'm Kristen Brown. So I'm currently a data scientist at Intuitive, which is a medical robotics company. And on my team, we work on AI research in medicine, and we're a little bit of a smaller company, but we are trying to grow more into like the HPC space and data science and AI as our company grows. So one thing that I'm particularly excited about is that SC is kind of also expanding in the AI space. So there's a little bit more there for me. So I started volunteering in 2016 as a student volunteer, and then I was a lead student volunteer in 2017 and 2018, and then I started being on the planning committee in 2019. And so this year I'm the student networking committee chair. And, you know, so as mentioned, you know, that falls under the mentoring programs fall under that. And, but we also have some alumni stories that are going to be airing during the conference, as well as more panels. So if you want to talk to more alumni and hear about how the conference impacted their lives, then you should check that out as well. But yeah, and then otherwise, yeah, we've got some meet and greet activities planned, which we'll send more emails out about. And so actually, as you can see on the slide, I actually did my PhD in molecular biology, which you might think is a little weird, and it is. But I actually, so I started out with my bachelor's and master's in physics, and I actually worked in computational physics research, doing simulations and that kind of thing. But then I decided I wanted to work on something that was more medically focused. But I found it's really hard to convince people that you can work on biology problems if you've never worked in a lab and you've only worked on a computer, essentially. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go and I'll just get a degree in it. And so here I am with a PhD in molecular biology. But I did get to work on some cool problems in quantitative biology, scientific visualization, and but mostly in bioinformatics and data analytics, and then kind of moved in data science and machine learning. And I am glad that I did it because, I really shouldn't have been working on biological problems with my previous background, but also I got to teach a lot of students who weren't familiar with programming or working on a cluster or anything like that. I got to teach them programming skills and just, the common things that we would consider common knowledge for working on a cluster or supercomputer, which, is great for me.
Great. So next we'll have our third panelist, who is Benjamin Clink.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
can hear you.
Thanks for the invitation too. So I'm Benjamin. I did my PhD in computer engineering in Germany. I was a student volunteer at SC in 2012, 14, and 16. I only do even years apparently. And 2012 was really the first time I got in contact with HPC through SC. So that's how I became interested in GPUs and everything. I then did 2 internships with NVIDIA, and now I'm a research scientist at NVIDIA. So I'm in the research department, so I get to write papers, but also get to have impact on future products. So which is kind of cool. So you get to play around with future technologies, but also be able to attend conferences. That's all I have to say for now. I leave it to the questions.
Great. And then lastly, we have Rusty Davis. If you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'll also thank Tyler for the invite. I wasn't sure I was going to do this because I've had some pretty rough construction across my house, but today's quiet, so we're doing good. Yeah, my name is Rusty Davis. I was a student volunteer at SC17. I graduated with my master's from Clemson in 2018, got a job here at Los Alamos National Laboratory. My job primarily involves writing software to make it easier for domain scientists to use our supercomputers efficiently, which can be an issue. Do work in containers, workflow management, and I'm starting to do some kind of computer vision stuff. I think that's everything.
Okay, great. So glad everybody could make it. And so we'll move on to kind of the main part of the event now, where basically we'll take questions from the audience for the most part. And I encourage, any kind of question that involves background, education, research, internships, employment, SC committee kind of stuff, anything that you heard our panelists talk about. If you have questions about what that was like for them, what it's like to be where they are now, how they, went about their education, these kinds of things. So I guess for now, we'll just let anybody who wants open with a question, and if too many people want to talk, we'll take them in the chat. But if anybody has an open question for now, for any or all of our panelists, feel free to.
So Tyler, I have one. This is Ashley. Maybe if I start, others will, follow. But so we all know SC is a great conference because we're all here and signed up to attend. And but are there other conferences that you have found that have been beneficial to you in your own career and your own interest that you could tell us about?
That's a good question. So I also volunteer a bit with the SIAM CSE conference. So that's the SIAM meeting on computational science and engineering. And I found that one to be really applicable. That one does a lot with, I think quite a few of us have talked about like working with users to working with people to show them how to run their code. So that has like an interesting kind of not necessarily HPC, but computational science aspects. So that's where a lot of those domain people that a lot of us work with actually presenting their research. I'm pretty interested in that. I do a bit of data science work as well. So I find that one to be really fascinating. And there's quite a bit of, it's not as much HPC, but it's a lot the applications of HPC that come up a lot there.
Thank you. Do any of the other panelists have some suggestions for additional conferences we might want to check out?
Ben, I feel like you're probably contractually obligated to promote GTC.
Well, I was about to say there are a lot of like more specific conferences like, oh yeah, GTC is one of them, certainly. If you're interested in GPU computing, I think that's a great place. Also, not just to like view all the sessions from other people, what they are doing, but also they have a lot of like tutorials and that stuff. There's also ISC, which is the counterpart to SC in Europe, which is kind of similar, a little bit smaller. And then if you're like interested in like high performance computing, I think SC is probably basically the only event that covers the whole spectrum of high performance computing. All the other conferences are more specific to like computer architecture or networking or something like that.
So I don't have like one specific conference that I can recommend. I've attended a lot, and I think that one, SC has like a really comprehensive student program, like more so than I've seen in like most of the conferences that I've been to. But yeah, I think that it is nice to attend smaller conferences that are more focused on like your particular area, because you really get to know people a little bit better than like these huge conferences where you see people sort of passing by, and you have to set up meetings to get time with them. So that would be my recommendation, is kind of look more for those small conferences.
I guess I'll have to go now. I'm obligated. So for my area, HP supercomputing is pretty much it. I have gone to some small DOE workshops, including ECP, ModSim, but those aren't really like general public per se. I would say if you can get invited to one of those, they're really cool. But yeah, supercomputing is good.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Great. So here we'll take a question from the chat. So for everybody who has been to a couple SCs. I think that everybody here has been to many SCs at this point. We're wondering how you see machine learning and or deep learning moving into supercomputing, since there are several workshops and paper tracks now specifically for machine learning. And if you have any kind of thoughts on that, or if you think what your perspective is on machine learning moving into kind of the supercomputing.
Okay, I can start. If no one else wants to go. So my last SC was 2016, and I don't really remember there to be a lot of talk, about AI and machine learning. But generally, I think it's a huge opportunity for HPC because, I mean, training these networks require a lot of compute resources. So that just means that a lot of the HPC technology will move towards more mainstream commodity like cloud installations. So that's certainly a great place for HPC to be more commercially available instead of just like a couple very expensive supercomputers that are mostly run by national labs. Which you can also see, like, for example, I have to bring that up again, I guess. NVIDIA has like the number 7 supercomputer, and it's basically, we're like a company, right? And a couple of years ago, that was usually not the case that a company would invest so much into a supercomputer. So that's kind of cool. But other companies do that too. It's not just NVIDIA.
So just push that question along, I guess. Kristen, you're a data scientist. Does the machine learning, it's interesting to hear from 2016 because I was at SC 2016 too. And having been to a few since then, I know that there's been a lot more machine learning every year since then. So does that have any impact on what you work on at Intuitive?
Yeah, so I also started coming to SC in 2016 and have noticed that as well. I think, I don't know, you always kind of notice these little trends that pop up during the conferences, and machine learning is one of them. And I think what's interesting is that there's been workshops and tutorials in, I think, the last year or two for people who just want to, learn how to use machine learning for their projects, whether which can be applied to some HPC research, but also like just doing machine learning in general. And so I think, I don't know, that's kind of an interesting space because there's I don't know, I think there's kind of a bridge to gap there, since a lot of people who do machine learning kind of do it from just like their small data sets and their kind of local computer and stuff. So just as we get more data, I think more of that is needed. I don't know if that answer made sense, but I think it's really just because we're getting a lot more data and just having to deal with that is kind of where we're going.
So I agree with Kristen. Yeah, and also kind of what Ben said. So I thinking back to like even coming in 2012, like I don't remember anyone talking about machine learning, but now it's like seems like the biggest topics. And I know when I ran student volunteers in SC18, like you had to always send, like you had to push people out of the rooms that had the machine learning workshops and different like emerging technology events and things like that because they were absolutely packed. So it's definitely blown up. But the way it is at SC, the representation of machine learning at SC is more for like, it's not the applications of machine learning. It's not like how do you build a model on, to predict, like do predictive analytics. Like it's not that aspect of it. It's like how do you build like the in situ workflows and how do you build the hardware so it's fast. Like so it's essentially like the supporting architecture for machine learning, which is it's really fascinating, but I guess it's not what like the mainstream people think of as being like doing machine learning or AI, but it's absolutely critical to keep it going.
So I thought I did attend like a tutorial workshop where they were basically going over the basics of machine learning, which I thought was an interesting, I don't know, topic for SC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's yearly now. In fact, I think there may be more than one this year. So if you are a student volunteer and machine learning at some level is interesting to you, you should, if I remember correctly, have full access to all the tutorials. So if something, you should take a look through those. And if anything in particular piques your interest, you should try to attend it because it's already paid for. And I think we usually have some great experts who run those tutorials. So you can learn quite a bit in a short amount of time. So I guess we'll move on to another question just to make sure that we're making good use of our time. So Radita asks, what are the pros and cons of doing an internship in industry versus like government research centers like Los Alamos, I think is the reference here. And I don't know if I think Rusty may be the only one at a national lab, although maybe the others have interned or have some experience there too, if you want to offer on either front.
So MITRE's a government research center, not necessarily a national lab. I never interned there, but the pros and cons I've heard from the interns I've worked with is that if you work in industry, you get paid more. If you end up being an intern in industry, you normally get paid a little bit more. I know at MITRE for our interns, they get to do a lot of like research experience, and sometimes we'll even get them, if they're interested in public service or working with the government, we can even get them started on things like different clearances and processing paperwork so they can really hit the ground running when they graduate. And a lot of them actually get to work on projects, like programming for the census and things like that. So it can be really cool to have that sort of impact in your career early on. So I think that's my perspective between the two. There's cool stuff in industry too, but you also get paid more in industry. So that's probably a win in that column.
I would add to that if you want to do an internship, that you shouldn't necessarily look at how much you get paid. I think the internship's purpose shouldn't be to get most money out of it. But yeah, you probably get more money though. That's probably true. But I guess I'm the only one. No, I'm not the only one from industry. But so yeah, I did do internships at NVIDIA before. I didn't intern at a national lab, so I can't say anything about that. But first of all, like it really depends on your own preferences. Where do you see yourself in the future? If you see yourself more industry or academia, and that probably should guide you where you want to intern, just to get a glimpse into how is the work there. But even if you do intern in industry, there are more like research-like organizations. For example, I interned at NVIDIA Research, so it's not necessarily only like industry environment, because you work with researchers, you work with other universities. So even within industry, there could be different avenues. So for example, if you choose a research organization at some company. And what I want to say is that I would highly recommend doing an internship. I think it was one of the best experiences I had during my PhD, and I'm not saying that because I got paid more. It was really valuable just to meet the people there. The way to work, like in industry, is a little different than at the university. So I would really highly recommend doing an internship.
So I'll ask you to keep the floor for a second, because a couple people asked what it's like to intern at NVIDIA. So maybe if you want to share some experiences from before you were hired as, I guess, full-time employee, what was it like being an intern there?
Right. Yeah, sure. So there's multiple reasons to do an internship, right? One is certainly to just get a door into a company. So internships are usually regarded as part of the recruiting, right? So a lot of our employees were former interns. If they do well, there's usually quite some interest in hiring that person back once he graduates or she graduates. So that's one thing. The other thing is like, if you just want to learn a little bit more about the technology and everything. So, and I did my internship, it was, NVIDIA gave me the opportunity to work on something that was relevant to my dissertation. So my dissertation was about like communication between GPUs. So both of my internship topics actually were in this area. So I could use all the results from their internship for my dissertation, which was very valuable to me and my professor too, I guess. And what we usually do is we want to make sure that the student can publish the results from the internship at the end of the internship. So both sides get something out of it. And then, I mean, you're really treated as an employee for the most of the time, I feel like. So I was able to attend all the meetings that my peers were able to attend. I got exposure to all the technology, how a GPU works and everything else. So that was really, really cool. And yeah, it made me, or it prepared me to work full time at NVIDIA later, and I was happy when I got the offer. So yeah, I can really highly recommend it. And I'm sure that the same is true for many other companies.
So let me press you and everybody else on just one other point. As somebody who has looked for internships and done internships recently, sometimes it's difficult to determine what internships are really like good research-oriented experiences, like you described, being able to work on something close to your dissertation, use the results for your dissertation. So how is it different for everybody, wherever you work? Is there a distinction between sort of research versus more general industry roles for internships? And if so, how do you tell the difference? How do you find what you're looking for?
Rusty, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. So let me remember what I was going to say. There we go. So at Atlanta, we have a pretty clear delineation between sort of the more research work versus the more industry work. In the HPC division, we're sort of split up into 3 different groups: design, environment, and systems. And essentially, I'm in the design group, and we're sort of more the research-focused area. So as a fresh-faced undergrad, I started here back in, 2014? Doing work on resilience research. And then, but I never really hit the more industry stuff until I started working here as a full-time employee. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you're people that you're interested in working with, just kind of reach out to them. Like, they're normal people, they're not going to bite probably. So you really should just kind of, ask them, hey, I think that this is really cool and could I work with you? And that's kind of how I started working with the people I started working with here. So I think that's a really effective approach, depending on how they are.
So at our company, our research departments, so I work on a research team as well, and we tend to just have PhD specific internships, and those tend to be more focused on research. But when you're applying to an internship and you get to the interview stage, you can ask questions like this about whether or not you're going to be working on research, or if you're going to be doing just a software engineering, software development from a more product standpoint. So yeah, during the interview, you should be interviewing them as well to make sure that it's a good fit.
I agree with Kristen. I think it's really important to ask them, like, what would a day be like? What do you want my outcome to be at the end of the internship? And if they say like a pack of a pile of stapled papers, then maybe that's not what you're looking for. But I think a lot of tech companies and even the national labs and government research places, if they hire a computer science or data science or computer engineering intern, they're going to want to put you to work. They probably won't have you doing busy work. But yeah, definitely ask and make sure you're interviewing the company back to make sure you're getting what you want out of an internship.
Okay, great. That's some really good advice, I think, for everybody. So let's see, I think we can step through another question real quick. So a question for those on the SC committee. And Ashley, I think even you might want to chip in if you have advice. The question is, for students who are graduating, what are the opportunities for joining the committee, or what does joining the committee look like? What is your experience? How did you join the committee? And what is it like to be on the committee?
So I mean, I think I joined the committee by being like really annoying about joining the committee to multiple people, just by like telling them constantly that like, oh, this is so much fun, I really want to help out, and then like sending emails and making sure that I was really clear about it, because and I think it was, I mean, obviously I'm able to do all this stuff now, so I think it was good. I was so annoying, but now that I'm on the committee, I do realize that like there's so many, especially when I worked on the Student Volunteers program, I probably had like, 40 students come up to me and say that they were interested in being on the committee, which is great, but I didn't have like a pad of paper where I was writing down all their names and emails. And the ones that I really followed up with were the ones that emailed me afterwards and like took that extra step to reach out. And that's what I'd always tell people is, okay, if you're really interested, send me an email like 2 weeks after the conference, and then I know you really mean it. So I think just reach out to people that you've worked with, that you liked working with them before, or you think they have a cool role in the committee, and just don't be, we get those emails all the time and they're always appreciated. It's always cool to have people help out. I've tried to bring a lot of former student volunteers onto the committee in my roles. I helped bring Kristen in, which has been awesome. So I think just look out for, ask people, be kind of annoying about it, for lack of a better word.
So I would just add maybe a couple more tips. So for the student volunteers that have not, been a lead volunteer yet, I think that's another good pathway, because as a lead volunteer, you get involved with a specific committee, and you get to meet more people on the committee because you work with them from the time you're accepted up until the time of the conference. And so you can make some connections that way. So I think if you haven't applied to be a lead volunteer and you haven't done that yet, and you are interested long-term in working on the committee, that's another way to make some more in connections to the committee. And then I would just echo what Christine said, show your value and be persistent, don't just say, hey, I'm interested in joining the committee. Maybe look around and understand what some of the roles are, and just see if you can help maybe in some of the areas that always need a lot of help. Like for instance, the student cluster competition. I mean, that's a place where they're always, I think, looking for a lot of people, because it takes a lot to run that versus maybe a more specific role where only one person is needed. So you kind of have to get your foot in the door and look for those opportunities. So be persistent, follow up. But then I also think, like I said, the lead volunteer is another good route. If you do a really good job there and you stand out, I think your name will come up as, well, hey, we're looking for someone next year to do X. I think Anna could do that. Sorry, Anna, if you're on the phone and I'm picking on you, but she's done a great job with my committee this year. Actually, all of my lead student volunteers have, and I wouldn't have any qualms about recommending them for any positions on the committee moving forward.
So just a question on behalf of, we should have done some analytics at the beginning and found out how many students are undergrad or PhD or whatever, but just in case. If we have some newer students in the call, can somebody clarify more, like what is what is the role of the committee, and why would one want to join the committee?
Yeah, I can do that. So the SC conference is entirely volunteer run. So there's actually very few people that are paid to work on the conference. And most of those are actually like union labor and things like that. So the general chair is unpaid. They actually take about 50% leave from their full-time day job to run the conference. So it's all run by volunteers. You get to kind of, see how things are done. And it's, for me, I like it for several reasons. So it's been really good project management experience. So it's been like interesting just trying to figure out like how to lead a team and like what needs to be, if we want to have a mentor protege program, what do you have to do to make that happen? Like you have to find mentors, you have to find proteges, you have to have a room to have it all in, or you have to have a virtual room. And just kind of like learning how to plan events like that has been really useful. And it made a big impact, I think, in my day job and what I get to do there. It's kind of like double the experience, but for this work, it's volunteer and it's fun. There's also really good networking opportunities when you're on the committee. So you get to kind of like, hang out with, the very top people in HPC and SC, because a lot of them are on the committee too. So it can be really good networking as well and a really good way to get in with people. And that's why my company, I think, supports me, spending all this time working on the conference, because they kind of get to help build those connections and things like that. And you get to give back to the community, which I think is really important. The student volunteer program especially had a really big impact for me. So I want to help create that experience for other people to have in the future as well.
So not for the faint of heart, right?
Depends. Not this year.
What she said, not this year.
Yeah. I'm not sure anything is easy this year. All right, so we'll pivot topics just a little bit. So for graduate school, actually, I want to come back to this. I have a question about advisors, but let's start, I think, from the bottom. So for y'all, why did you decide to, or what convinced you to pursue a PhD, or why would you want to do that versus stopping at a master's? That kind of question. What convinced you? What is your experience, and why did you choose to take the path that you did?
So I guess I'll start. So for me, I just really like learning. It was just going to happen. I just wanted to get a PhD because it was the next degree to get. And this was the next topic I wanted to learn. I love just learning new things. And I love kind of jumping around fields a lot. But they all have like a computational thread in them. And so that's really my primary motivation. I'm not sure that, I'm sure I could have gotten a job just stopping at a master's. My current job required a PhD, but yeah, it's not like it was, any extra boost for me anyway.
So I did stop at a master's, and then Miter actually paid for my PhD. So I did both, and I stopped at a master's because I was tired of being a really poor student, and I really wanted a full-time job, and I wanted to be way less stressed out about how I was going to pay my rent. And then I ended up working for a company that paid for my PhD. So, and I, like Kristen, I really love learning. I liked the thesis topic I had for my master's, and I was excited to keep working on it. So I just kind of kept going outside of work when I had the time.
Yeah, pretty much similar to the other ones. I'm generally a very curious person, so after my master's, I was still interested in the topic. I liked my advisor. I think that's always a good thing. Like the people you work with. And yeah, I mean, I think the question is also like what doors opened. I mean, I'm pretty sure it would have been much harder for me to to be where I am right now without a PhD, just because with a PhD, it's easier to work in research. Like often it's I want to say requirement, but I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, to have a PhD in research organizations. And also, when you're doing a PhD, usually you benefit from the network of your advisor. And you go to conferences and build your network in the research area. So that usually helps you if you want to get a job in research.
I think the just to chip in here, I think that the advice I've always gotten is that if you know that there's a door that opens for you, if you get the PhD that you want to go through, then it's a good idea. But if you want to do it just if you don't know why you want to do it, then maybe it's not a good idea. If you don't have the interest, or if there's not a specific target in mind, it's a lot of investment if you don't know what you're going to get out of it, especially if you don't like the research that you're doing. Let's see. So we wanted to ask the question about advisors. So how everybody has a different path on how they ended up doing their PhD. So how did you choose an advisor, and or let's add thesis topic to that? How did you end up in that position? Did you just happen to take a class that you liked that had an advisor doing something interesting, or did you get pushed in that direction, that kind of thing? I know, Ben, you mentioned that whenever you started your PhD, you liked what you were working on. So did you do the same research for your PhD that you did for your master's?
Yes. So I basically sat in a class of my advisor, and I liked the way he taught, and I was very interested in the topic. That was basically, well, the thing was Introduction to HPC or something, and then later parallel programming and that stuff. And I did well in the exercises in the labs. So he asked me to be a research assistant in his group, and I accepted and did that for a little bit. And then after that, I knew that I wanted to continue in that line of work, and became his PhD student. So that was my path, like a chain of events.
When I read this question, I actually don't remember how I met my advisor or how I started working with them. I think I just asked. So when I started at George Mason, they gave you there was like an initial advisor that worked with you to help you find somebody. And I think I just told that person what I was interested in, that I wanted to do, data science. I already had a thesis topic in mind. So I really wanted to work on data science and analysis for the organ transplant system in the US. It's just a really fascinating topic for me. There's a huge backlog of people waiting. It's just a really data rich topic, and there's not that much research being done on, or there wasn't when I started that much data science type research being done on it. So I kind of just found somebody that was willing to work with me, and it ended up working out really well. We got along, I thought, really well during the whole time.
So I've had a couple different advisors, and usually, yeah, I get to know them through a class. But I also just look at the department web pages, go through research topics, and then email them to set up meetings to talk about their research, and then just also get a vibe for whether or not I could communicate with this person. And I mean, I've had good experiences and bad experiences with professors and advisors. And so I think kind of the general advice that, I hear from PhD students in general, even master's students, is, you have to deal with this person for 2 to 5, even 10 years sometimes. Then you kind of want to pick someone who's going to be nice to you, and who's going to support your career no matter what it is that you choose. And so mentorship is really important. in that regard. And it's hard to find that out, but you can actually ask grad students who are in the lab or team about their experiences in the lab. You can kind of get a sense for what it's like working there, talking to the students.
Yeah, I agree. I just stopped at a master's, obviously, but yeah. So like I was talking to classmates. One of them was Tyler Allen right there. Who was telling me that his advisor was pretty good. And then actually working an internship at Lano, one of the people we were working with who was doing other research on reliability was also in energy. He also worked. Tyler's advisor was also his co-advisor for his PhD, and so kind of somehow sparked up an interest there, and it worked out really well. So there's sometimes weird avenues that you might not anticipate if you just kind of really look.
All right. So let's see. I think we have, oh, I like this question. I think this is also the next question. I'm trying not to skip anybody. If I skipped you, please ask again, and I'll make sure we get to it. We still have a few more minutes. So has anybody had any kind of failure in experiences, I guess during a job search? Yeah. So has anybody had any experiences, any difficulties? I think I'd add that. I think I'd ask that for academia too. I mean, in some sense, internships, anything in that, any kind of negative experience that you learned something from. Or is
So
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I when I finished my bachelor's degree, I couldn't. So I did a 4+1 program. So at the end of your bachelor's, they had a master's program that you could just do an extra year to get. And when I finished my bachelor's degree, I could not find a job. It was, I guess it was 2011 or 2012, and I remember applying for all these jobs, and I thought I was so qualified, and I thought I could do them, and I didn't get hired anywhere. All my friends that were in the same program as me, they were all guys. They all got jobs, and I couldn't get one, and it was really disappointing. So that's actually one of the reasons why I was able to do my master's faster, because nobody would hire me. So it was a really frustrating time, and I don't know exactly what I was doing wrong, and I just kind of kept working and kept doing things I liked, and you can only control your own actions. So I just kept trying to build up my resume and do things that I like doing, and stayed in school and tried to figure it out, and then eventually I got a job. It did take a while though. It took a lot longer than I thought it would, honestly. But just stick with it, keep applying, and then I put a lot more effort into networking in person. Sometimes I call it being annoying, but going to conferences and bringing copies of my resume and just coming up with more creative solutions. Like I got my job at MITRE because there was a poster session at my old high school, and so I went with like a stack of my resumes, and I went to every single student that had a poster there, and they all had advisors that were like guiding them on their high school poster projects. And I talked to every single person I thought had an interesting student with a student with an interesting poster, and I gave them my resume, and that's how I got hired at MITRE. So sometimes it just takes a little bit more hustle than submitting your resume online.
And so that's why everybody should sign up for the job fair that we talked about at the beginning. But no, I think that's really good advice. Does anybody else have anything to chip in?
So I've definitely gotten flustered during interviews and just, I don't know, fumbled questions before. I still fumble questions, but I view every interview experience as kind of a learning moment where you can look back and think about better ways to answer the questions. If it's like a coding question and you didn't know how to answer it, you can go kind of look through that and then learn for next time. But one thing that really helped me not fumble future interviews was practicing, and not just like going on LeetCode and practicing those things, but actually talking out solutions and just talking through answers to questions, like the silly questions about how, tell me about a time that you've experienced a failure, right? This is not a good answer for that type of question during an interview, but yeah, so just practicing those questions out loud, talking to someone, talk to my cat through my questions, and that really helps you prepare, I think, for actually saying it during an interview.
So Tyler, I just might add here too, one thing, I hire a lot of people every year, and I don't hire a lot of people every year. And one of the things I've noticed is that some folks will follow up after it's over, like when I say, hey, you didn't get the position, and ask me for feedback on what they thought, or what I thought maybe they could do better, or where their deficiencies were, or they asked me for interview feedback. And there were times where we struck up a conversation and I said, hey, maybe you don't have enough experience in this specific area. And then they would ask me, like, are there any, kind of like 1-year appointments available, or are there any junior level positions that might be coming up that I might be more qualified for? And those folks taking that extra step to show that they were really interested in working for my company or for, on my team, I thought showed initiative on their part. And I actually ended up hiring a couple of those people who've come back to me. I thought about them and we found them maybe a different role. So if you have the opportunity to ask for that interview feedback, sometimes you do, sometimes it's like, don't bother me, closed door. But I think it can be valuable to understand from their perception what you could have done better to improve your chances for that role.
So that's kind of like being annoying, like Christine asked us.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to that hustle. I mean, don't give up, make connections, and be persistent. Maybe persistent is the right word for it. But I mean, if you just throw in your resume in a hat and hope for the best, I mean, there's a lot of people out there hustling and being persistent, and they're going to be more persistent and hustle more than you, and probably then get the job.
Great. Okay. I think we hit on all the major questions, which is good because we're also out of time. So I do want to thank everybody for coming today, both the audience and our panelists who took time out of their busy schedules to join us. And so I think we'll wrap up here. Does anybody have, especially our panelists, do you have anything that you would like to plug, given the platform? Any kind of events or hiring or that kind of thing?
I don't have anything to plug, but I guess, SC is virtual this year. It's really different. A lot of the networking stuff is going to be hard. And I think somebody asked, like, what's, the biggest takeout from your experience in SC conferences? And I think mine is definitely like the relationships I have. It's cool being on the committee, and it was cool, getting, a job and internships and stuff like that. But like the other stuff that happens is really important. Like, I met Kristen through the conference. She came and visited me in California. We went hiking together. Ben and I got to live in California at the same time. We were student volunteers together in 2012. And, I got to hold his baby, when he had a baby with his wife. So, there's really cool things like that happen outside the conference that I think are really like key experiences. And this is a really good opportunity for you to meet and connect with other people that like the same stuff you like. And make sure you get to take advantage of that too.
So I would like to just plug the Mentor Protege program again. I think it's a really great program for you to meet people who have similar interests, but you might learn about a research area or a job that you might not have thought about before, internships that you didn't even know about. Just by talking to people and, through the speed mentoring event, Mentor Protege, even your fellow students. So just, I don't know, I would just encourage you to try to participate in some of these social activities, even if, maybe you don't feel like you want to participate in a weird virtual social activity, but making those connections early can be really useful long term.
All right, real quick, Ben or Rusty, do you have anything that you'd like to throw out there?
I mean, I guess when you go to the job fair, you should go. I don't know how, I guess I don't know if there are booths. I don't know how that's going to work, but there are going to be people from Los Alamos and you should talk to them. They're really nice.
Yeah, I mean, keep attending the events like this, I guess. I think that's really a great experience as a student. And there are a lot of other events that SC provides, so just make sure you go there and talk to people and get engaged.
That sounds good. Well, thank you everybody for showing up and helping us out. And I hope
Hey,
everybody
Tyler.
has a good night.
Thank you,
And-
Tyler.
Thanks, Adam.
Can I
Thank
make just maybe one couple just quick announcements? UPay, did I get your name right? UPay, are you still on the phone with us?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome, UPay. Well, you are the winner of tonight's gift card because we decided coming in that the first person that asked a question, a legitimate question, that wasn't me or Tyler, would get the gift card tonight. So congratulations. Woo! So
Nice.
essentially,
Thank you.
if you
Thank
show
you.
up for all of your shifts at SC and do, all the work we expect you to do, at the end of the conference, we will be sending you an Amazon gift card for your participation tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I want to just plug too, internships are really, important, as you heard tonight. I personally hire lots of interns every year. So if you are interested, I'm also another good connection and would love to talk to you offline about that as well. So just my personal plug. Sorry, everyone, but I am going to exploit it because I'm here. So.
Yeah, same here. We are hiring interns too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hit me up if you want. I'm technically on Lionel time right now, so.
There you go. So see, there are lots of opportunities out there, and from you joining this panel, hopefully, you can maybe follow up with Ben or Rusty or myself. I'm at Oak Ridge as well, and so get out there and hustle. Be persistent. Be annoying, in the words of Christine. And all of you have a great night. Real quick, the next panel, the last panel in our series, is going to be next week. You should be getting I'm sorry to send so many emails. I apologize, but there's a lot going on. So you're going to get another calendar invite for that next week. And it is on mental health and how to kind of take care of yourself right now and in the future. And I think it's going to be really interesting and a little bit different than what we've done thus far. So I encourage you all to join us next week. And thank you for your time. Tyler, thank you for organizing this. And thank you for all of our speakers. We really appreciate, I know you gave at SC before, and we appreciate you keeping on giving to the community. We really appreciate it. Thank you.